Hello guys, Penguin here. Today, I'm going to be showing you almost every single weapon in Dark Souls 3 which I found to be parryable, and I hope this guide will help you a lot in the future so you won't make mistakes in the future. Big thank you to my friend Jerpo who helped me film this, and I do hope you guys enjoy this because it did take a long time. See you guys.
You're a wicked one, aren't you?
So first up, we're going to be having all types of daggers and dagger type weapons. First thing you guys should know is that any type of jumping attack with any type of weapon is not parryable, so I'll let you guys know that right now. But for daggers, every other attack is parryable, such as the running attack, the dodge roll attack, regular right bumper attacks like this right here, and then also the heavy attacks are also parryable. Some things you should know is that we only covered some of the weapon arts that actually were like attack moves, such as like the shield splitter right there, which is parryable. Unleashed Dragon is also parryable, in case you didn't know, for any type of weapon as well. The only thing that wasn't parryable was Blind Spot by this dagger right here. Next we have straight swords. Now straight swords were same as always, like with the daggers. Running attacks are parryable. Dodging and roll attacks are parryable. Regular right bumpers are parryable, and then the heavy attacks are parryable. Something you should know is that probably like every single straight sword had the stance. So right there you can see they're also parryable. Both moves are actually, it was just the heavy attack of the stance was parryable, but the guard break of the stance was not parryable. Also with the dark sword, the stomp attack isn't parryable no matter which move you do, light attack or heavy. It's unparryable. Dark swords. Right here we're gonna have the Gothards, and a lot of people don't know is that the Gothards are actually parryable on their very last hit of their weapon art. The only thing is that the get it to the right timing is just pretty tricky, so I kind of don't recommend trying to do that unless the guy's dancing in the background trying to do the weapon art. Right here there was Lothric's Holy Sword, and as you can see, the heavy attack where it shoots the beam, it's parryable. Now next we're going to be having cursed swords, and like all the other ones, the dodging attacks are parryable, running attacks parryable, and regular right bumper attacks parryable. Now the right triggers for these ones are the heavy attacks. These ones are a little trickier just because it does like a double hit, but you can bury up the heavy attack. It's like you gotta get it perfect timing, like right there. Something that's kind of cheap about these curse swords is that practically every single one of their weapon arts, which is the spin slash, almost every single one, any type of spin slash with these is unparryable. Also the Crescent Moon Blade, the weapon art on that is actually surprisingly not parryable, which really surprised me when we were recording this. Same thing with this tornado slash. Yeah, even though you didn't see the tornado, it wasn't parryable. Now with the Dancer Sword, which is cool, is that the very first part, if you're able to get it, it's actually parryable of the weapon art. But something is that if you do miss the first parry, don't try going in there trying to parry a random hit, because as you can see right there, it's not parryable. Just to show you more spin slashes are like Warrington blades. I mean, we practice a lot. I mean, either I suck ass at parrying or yeah. Next we're gonna be having what are these, rapiers? Yeah, rapiers. As always, the running attacks are parryable, dodging attacks are parryable, regular right bumpers are parryable, and all the right triggers are parryable. There wasn't much to say about rapiers besides that they have the stupid stance, which is like all their moves are parryable. One of them has shield splitter, but even that is parryable. There's nothing real unique about these, I guess you could say. All their attacks are pretty much parryable except the running attack. I mean the jumping attack, of course. Alright, so coming up next, we're going to be having katanas. Now, same thing as usual, katanas, all their attacks are parryable. I know some people are scared to do that, parry the poke attack, but they are parryable. Rolling attacks are parryable, running attacks are parryable, regular right bumpers are parryable, and even the heavy attacks are parryable. Although they are pretty tricky to get. The weapon art of all the holds is parryable. And we decided to do the weapon art Bloodlust, where he stabs himself, just in case it was parryable, but it's not, guys, so don't try it. And the only other different move weapon art was Dark Drift, which ends up sadly being parryable, which kind of sucks since it's already a pretty crappy weapon to begin with. Now the only other katana that I remember we did was the Onikiri and Ubidachi, and I'm pretty sure as many of you guys seen before, I don't even think I have to explain this, but the weapon art is definitely not parryable, so don't ever try that, guys. So next we're going to be having Greatswords, and this is where things started getting a little bit different. The running attacks are parryable, rolling attacks are parryable, regular attacks are parryable. The only difference is that heavy attacks, two-handed, cannot be parryable, but there are some that one-handed, when they're one-handed, they can be parried, so just remember, keep that in mind. As you can see right here, two-handed right attack, heavy attacks aren't parryable at all. The only something we didn't record in this video was the Twin Prince Greatsword, the weapon art. I can tell you that both of their the weapon arts on that sword are parryable, just to let you guys know. Well, as you can see right here, the Executioner's spin slash, that was not parryable, but the Fireling's Greatsword weapon art was parryable. And for any other Greatsword, just has stance attack, the stance weapon art. As you can see, both of its attacks are parryable. The Moonlight Greatsword, along with the Greatsword of Judgment, their beam of light that they shoot are parryable. And even the Storm Ruler, I don't know why the hell you would be using this, but in case you wanted to know, it is parryable. Right here we're gonna have the Wolf Knight's Sleep Sword, and as you can see right there, don't ever try parrying this. I mean, it doesn't even look parryable, and it's not parryable. So next we're gonna be having the curved Greatswords. With these ones, all running attacks are parryable, dodging attacks are parryable, regular right bumpers are parryable, and the heavy attacks, two-handed, are not parryable. And as long as the one-handed version of the heavy attacks are not parryable, so even if they're one-handed, the heavy attacks are not parryable. Since these are curved Greatswords, they share similarities with their smaller cousins, the curved swords. And you can see, but even though we probably already knew that it wasn't parryable, we decided to give it a try. But as you can see, it's not parryable, so don't ever try parrying that. The only other different weapon art besides spin slash was like the wolf leaf right here. And even that wasn't parryable. So this all occurred the Greatswords. The weapon art is definitely not parryable. Now, coming up right here, we're going to be having the Ultra Greatswords. Now, like before, with all the other ones, the running attacks are parryable, dodging attacks are parryable, and the two-handed version, two-handing your weapon, the right bumper attacks are not parryable. So light attacks are not parryable, as you can see right there, along with your heavy attacks. This only you can only parry their attacks when they're one-handing them. So as you can see right here, once he one-hands it, the right bumper attacks are parryable. But the right the heavy attacks are not parryable still, so don't try parrying their heavy attacks. Definitely don't try parrying their two-handed heavy attacks. Now the weapon art, as you can see, the spin slash thingy that he does right there is not parryable. The only real weapon art that was parryable right there was the Astora's Greatsword. In case you didn't know, that the charge attack by Astora's Greatsword is actually parryable. But the Astora's Greatsword, it does have a move that's not parryable, which is it's dodging right bumper attacks, so don't try parrying that. The Farron Greatsword, in case you didn't know, is parryable. It's just a really tricky sword to get, so it's I don't recommend trying to parry those ones. Next we have axes. These ones are a little bit more simpler, as all their attacks are basically parryable. Running attack parryable. Their dodging attack parryable. Regular right bumpers are parryable, and then their heavy attacks are parryable. All the axes mostly had a war cry, so it was pretty easy to test these ones, as all we needed to really show you is that the war cry buff, even the heavy attacks, all his moves are so parryable, as you can see right here. And we decided to give the butcher knife a chance, the sharpen. As you can see, it was still parryable. Along with the twin axes, if you're able to parry the first hit, it is parryable, and the second hit as well. But do not ever try trying to parry mid slash. It's not possible. Next, we're gonna be having Greataxes. Greataxes, running attacks are parryable. Rolling attacks are parryable. Even though they make no sense. But regular right bumper attacks, two-handed, are not parryable, along with their heavy attacks. These are only parryable when you have a one-handed and it's a regular right bumper attack. If it's a heavy attack, even one-handed, still not parryable. The weapon art, it's not parryable. All war cry types, they're just not parryable. And right here we decided to test out the demonic flare, just in case, if anything. As you can see, it wasn't parryable. Now the one cool thing we did find out about this is that the Dragon Slayer falling bolt right here, it's actually parryable, in case you didn't know. So that's really good to know. So coming up next also we have what are these, spears? Yeah, spears. Now spears, in my opinion, suck ass. As you can see, almost every single one of its attacks are parryable. Whether it be just a stupid right bumper attack, heavy attack, rolling attack, not jumping attack, dodging attack, and then even its weapon art. Almost all spears have like some form of charge. Just to let you know, all charges are parryable. And just the only thing that that is different is that there's one spear weapon that has a kindle charge. I think it's the Gargoyle Flame Spear. The second part of the Gargoyle Flame Spear isn't parryable, where he jumps in the air, just to let you guys know that. But for any other spear, regular spear, charge attacks, they're all parryable. Nothing new. Next, we're going to be having knives, or yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. As always, running attacks are parryable, dodging attacks are parryable, right bumper attacks are parryable. Parryable. And the heavy attacks are parryable. Now, along with the knives having some charge attacks which are parryable, the only real one that wasn't parryable are like all the spin attacks by knives. So like, let's say a chain spin, those aren't parryable, and the spin, I think it's called spin bash or something like that. Well, even as you can see right here, Gundir's charge attack, his charge attack is parryable, and his second part where he does like an overhead attack, that's parryable. In case you wanted to know, the immolation timber right there, this weapon art where it shoots out the fire, is parryable. Right here we show you the spin attack and how even both of parts of its moves aren't parryable, sadly. Next, we're going to be having the gayer version of a spear, which is basically pikes. There's not much different from the spears. I mean, they're like almost the exact same moveset, so like all of its attacks are parryable, obviously except for the jumping attack. And to make it even worse, the only weapon art they have is a charge, which is like even easier than the spear since it's just a basic charge. It's not like a lightning charge or anything like that. Next, we're going to be having regular hammers. Now, hammers, as always, running attacks are parryable, rolling attacks are parryable, regular right bumper attacks are parryable, and the heavy attacks are parryable. The only thing I did have to say is, even though it looks like I'm just doing this pretty easily, you guys should know that it was really hard to parry these attacks. I think mostly just because of how fast they were. So in case you're wondering, yeah, these attacks are pretty hard to parry. Well, at least to time right. But you should know that the war cries is parryable. Now the only other different weapon art that actually was an attack move is these drag hammers. And the good thing is that the weapon art isn't parryable. So if you are using some type of hammer build, drag hammers, weapon art isn't parryable. Now great hammers or clubs, whatever you want to call them, running attacks are parryable, dodging attacks are parryable, even though I messed up right there. And then regular right bumpers two-handed are not parryable along with their heavy attacks. And then the only time this is parryable is when he's one-handing it, and only the right bumper attacks are parryable. Even if they're one-handing it, the heavy attacks, they're just not parryable. By far, these are probably one of the easier weapons to parry when they're one-handing it, because you can almost exactly time it right. Of course, the weapon art is not parryable. These weapons kind of remind me of cavemen. Their simplisticness to them, of just them like bashing your ass to the ground. The only other weapon art that was different was probably this spin bash right here, which isn't parryable at all. The only other weapon that I had to explain was Morin's range, in case you didn't know, or like any other type, like Wrath of the Gods by like the Warrior's Holy Sword. They're not parryable, so don't try parrying those. Next, we have all types of fist weapons. There's nothing really new about these. All the attacks are parryable, whether you believe it or not. I know some people are pretty scared of trying to parry those. The weapon art on these claws are unparryable, in case you didn't know. The Demon Fist's weapon art, the very first part isn't parryable, but the second part is, which is kind of cool. And in case you didn't know, the cases are also parryable. Next is also the scythe weapons. There's really nothing new with these weapons. They're all pretty bad, to be honest. All the attacks are parryable. The running attacks, the dodging attacks, regular attacks, and then like the heavy attacks. The weapon art is like a neck swipe. It's the only weapon art that the scythes really have. It just looks like a heavy attack, and it's parryable as well. It's pretty garbage. But there's not much else to be said about these weapons, so I'll let you see for yourself.